Well, as Pastor Nathan mentioned a moment ago, it's kind of a different Sunday because you don't have to listen to me jabber on for half an hour. You guys can go ahead and be seated. And instead of listening to me, what we're going to do is we're going to have some testimonies. We have 3 different people sharing their testimonies today. And kind of the idea is that we've been talking about the 23rd Psalm on Sunday mornings. And I wanted to have a time where we listen to some people share about their journey with the Good Shepherd. And so I'm going to invite Myrna to come. And Myrna's going to share with us a little bit. Myrna has an amazing testimony that I have just heard bits and pieces of. And so I am excited to hear from Myrna about her journey with Jesus as the Good Shepherd. And then once she shares, then the worship team will come back up. And so we're going to kind of be intermixing praise with testimony about how God has been journeying with us.
Good morning. I want to warn you, I'm not a public speaker. I was born in Boise, Idaho, so I am a true Idahoan. As a child, I grew up in the Collister area, and when my dad quit the government and he decided to buy a farm, we moved to Eagle. I grew up, went through 5th grade to high school, or junior high in Eagle is where I met my husband. We dated for a couple years before my dad decided to sell the farm and move me to Ephrata, Washington. I kind of rebelled, got myself in trouble and had to get married, which was not good. The only good thing come out of that was my 3 kids. Anyway, after I had left my first husband, I moved to a little town in California called Lincoln. And Lincoln had a railroad that ran right through the town. And I got the chance to be a bartender and sing in a country western band. I thought that was just heaven. Anyway, one night when I had a night off, I took my kids and put them in the car and was going to take them to a babysitter, and I was going to go have some fun. I came up to a stop sign at this railroad track where the train comes from around a bend. Lincoln never lowered the rate of speed for trains since World War II, and it was going 55 miles an hour. I stopped at this, there was just a stop sign. I stopped. I went across, my car died. It's on the incline. I looked up and I saw this light coming at me. I opened the door and I only had a 2-door, and my daughter jumped out and ran back across the tracks. The lady that had stopped behind me grabbed her. I had a 3-year-old in my arms. I assumed that my other son got out. I was running with my son. The train hit my car and threw it over on top of me. Threw my son 150 feet out of my arms. He had 5 skull fractures, and the whole left side of me was crushed. I don't know how to break this down so it doesn't take me forever. My folks came. I came through in Roseville Hospital. The doctor came in and told me that my little boy was upstairs, that he still had not regained consciousness. My little girl was fine. My parents had come down and they had my little girl. I asked about Clinton, and he said, he's dead. My little boy never made it out. I carried that burden a long time because I didn't have to go out that night. I never blamed God. It wasn't God's fault. It wasn't mine. It was on my shoulders. And I carried that around for quite a while. I finally got my divorce from my first husband. And I had to make a trip back here from Washington to Caldwell because my grandpa had passed away. And I went to see one of my girlfriend's mothers that we had gotten close with when I was in school. And she said that I needed to write a letter to Dale. And I said, no, Dale's married. I'm not going to do it. She said, no, he's not. You send it to his mother, he's logging, and he only comes home every 3 weeks, and he stays at his mother's. So I wrote the letter, never expecting anything, and I got a phone call, and it was Dale, and he wanted me to come down and see him. So over Labor Day, my folks went to my brother's, so I took my little boy and we rode the bus 8 hours to Boise. And a friend that I had grown up with in school, him and his wife, came and got me, and I stayed there. I was there 3 days, and Dale and I got to see each other for 3 days. And I went back home, and I got a phone call the next day, and he said, I want you to come back. I said, I can't come back. I said, I have to ride a bus 8 hours with 2 kids. I don't think so. If you want to see me, you're going to have to come up here. He quit his job and came up there. Now, does that mean he loved me? I think he did. Anyway, November we were married. We were not angels, believe me. We were drinking and partying and just having the best time, I thought. At that time, Emmett had a little store, a Hallmark store. And I was working at the Hallmark store. Dale and I had gotten married and moved back to Star. I got it all messed up. Anyway, after Dale quit logging, he went to work for a building contractor. And I decided we were going to move to Emmett because I was pregnant with my second child with Dale, and there was no way I was going to have 4 kids in a 10 by 55 foot mobile home. So I came here, and he said, well, nobody's going to sell you a house. Ha. I did, and I'm still living in it. Anyway, I went to work at a Hallmark store, and Pastor Bill Moore came in to get his printing done. John did his printing. He would not leave me alone. It didn't matter where I was working, in the cards, or wherever I was, he found me. And he said, you have to come to church. You need to come to church. I said, no, I can't. I smoke. He said, God don't care. He wants you like you are. Well, I quit smoking and decided, well, I guess I better go to church. My kids were coming. I might as well go too. I came. I was still carrying that burden of my son on my shoulders. And one night, I can't remember whether it was in the evening or in the morning service, but he had an altar call. And he told me I could give it up. I could give it to the Lord. So I went down to the altar, and I cried my heart out. And I'm going to tell you something, I have never forgot that feeling. God came into my heart, and he just lifted that burden off my shoulders, and I felt like he was, I asked why I lived, and he didn't. And he said, you had kids to take care of. I'll take care of Clinton. And that's why the Moore family are so special to me, because they've always been there for me, and this church has just been my home. And the love of God that's in this church, you can't believe. You can't believe. That's all I have.
All right, at this point, we're going to invite James to come forward, and he's going to share with us as well. I love James, and I am going to miss having James around in the office, and so as his punishment for leaving, he got asked to come and share a little bit about his journey with us this morning.
Thank you very much. I'm 100% going to miss being here in the office. It has been the most wonderful work experience that I think I've ever had, despite it all. It has helped foster my spiritual awakening. And not only that, but the pastor said, I got roped into this, but when he mentioned a Testimony Sunday, the Spirit compelled me to go ahead and volunteer and jump like a little eager dog at it, and I've been kicking myself ever since. So here's what I've got, right? As you probably know, I'm James, and a whole lot of my life I've felt like the world does not want me here. I was carried by my mother for 10 months. She almost lost me several times during the pregnancy. I came out 11 pounds, very, very big, and a very problematic birth. Since I was born, I choked, had to be resuscitated. Thank you, peanut butter M&Ms. I drowned in an apartment pool and had to be resuscitated. Thank you very much, my mom's then boyfriend. And, I cracked my skull on linoleum after climbing up on a bathroom sink like a smart kid. And my mom had to take me and my then dad to the hospital because he fainted upon seeing me bleeding out on the bathroom linoleum. So later in childhood, it turned out that I had growth hormone deficiency. I wasn't going to enter puberty. I was very, 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 very small, and I had to undergo growth hormone shots that were experimental. It caused severe, severe pain as the growing pains basically ramped up to an insane level, and I spent many, many nights having to be doped up on children's Tylenol. I spent a lot of time in Children's Hospital, a lot of times at the Ronald McDonald House in Portland because every 3 months I had to go get poked and prodded because it was experimental. But here I am, 6 feet tall, so I'm no longer short. So all these trials, they left a very definite mark on me. While I seemed like a halfway normal child, in my own mind, I was pretty much trudging through a desert, lost and alone, with not much choice but to endure or die. And I didn't put much value on my own life. Somehow, by the grace of God, though, I survived childhood and entered adulthood. That was until in my late 20s, I would go through another crucible, one that would give me just a small sliver of a chance to survive. I was around 28, living my best life when I started to get stomach aches. They started out slow. They would come, hurt for about 1 or 2 hours, then go away. Then they started lasting whole days, crippling me with pain. But, after a day, they would go away and I would continue working. I did this and trained my mind to do what I always did: endure or die. Finally, one day, it got so bad that with tears in my eyes, I begged God for death. I was just, in essence, writhing in agony in my bed, in a bathtub, everywhere I went. And I was just crying out to the heavens about how I wanted to go ahead and have my life ended, because it was so painful. But instead, I ended up calling an ambulance on myself, walking myself to the paramedics outside the door instead of letting them come in, because I was afraid my roommates were going to wake up. And when I got to St. Alphonsus, I immediately was put into a morphine-induced coma, and the doctor and surgeons, well, they got to work trying to save my life. So it turned out that I had a blood clotting issue. It's called factor C deficiency. Blood was clotting in my small intestine and suffocating the small intestines until it was almost 100% necrotized. I only have a foot of small intestine left. Somehow, some way, a foot was saved of healthy intestine, which is what allows me to persist to this day. So I awoke from my morphine coma after several surgeries, and several panic attacks by my mom, where apparently she fainted or she just collapsed in distress. We have a close connection after that whole carrying me for 10 months thing. So over the course of my recovery, I got the opportunity to pray with several people. I got to pray with the Moores, Bill Moore, Pastor Bill Moore, my uncle Bill Moore, Lisa, Ashley, Ken, my stepdad, just wonderful family. But I also got to meet Pastor Dowd. Pastor Dowd was then the pastor of Emmett Nazarene Church, and I found out that I had a whole congregation praying for my well-being and my recovery. And well, it would take a long time for me to come to fully know the Lord. I remember the feeling of being able to pray with my family, pray with the congregation, and the fact that, despite the fact that I was given I think, roughly around a 10% chance to live through that crucible, I survived. And I think a lot of it was just the prayer of some very, very, very devout prayer warriors. Many of them are still in this room today. And since then, I've gotten to know the Lord, and I've done my fair share of praying for others and passing on that blessing. Thank you.
Be seated.
All right, for our final testimony, I'm going to invite Doug Severance to come, and he's going to share with us for a few minutes. Doug's another person in this church I've just really grown to love and appreciate, and definitely walked with the shepherd a couple years. So I want to just listen to what you have to share with us this morning, Doug.
Thank you, Pastor. Has meant a lot to me because it describes my life, and not only at the beginning but to the end, to the very end. And I want to thank the Lord and give him the praise for what he's done in my life. And it started when I was 9 years old. At 9, though it happened yesterday, it's something that changed my life, and that is when I accepted Christ as my Savior. It was an evening service, and God convicted me of sin. I was a thief and a liar at 9, and God convicted me. I felt his convicting power, and I confessed, and it changed my life. I remember going out, and you hear this a lot from the old timers, but the daylight was brighter, or the nighttime was brighter, and the stars were bright, but it made a difference in my life, a born-again experience. And that's the way we all have to begin this life that David is talking about. The Lord is my shepherd. He knew it personally, and we can know Jesus personally and know that he is our Lord. But anyway, from then on, I thank the Lord that his rod and his staff, they keep us on track. Through my growing up years in high school, I thank the Lord for his faithfulness to show me and teach me and lead me in the way that I should go. And I had a deep desire to go to Bible school. And there was only 3 colleges that I knew of that just taught the Bible. And that was God's Bible School and Prairie Bible Institute. And those really appealed to me. But there was another one, Kentucky Mountain Bible College, and a friend of mine gave me a book about this school, and I thought, that's the school I want to go to, because it was out away from the world, and they had their own farm, they raised their own crops, and it was just a beautiful time. The Lord prepares a table before us, and he gives us blessings. And that was one of the blessings that God gave me, is to attend a school that taught the Bible. But during that time, I felt led I wanted to serve the Lord. And he led me to a place totally different than the mountains of Kentucky. And that was the streets of LA. And I worked in a mission, a rescue mission for, I was there a couple years. But I'll never forget the time that I ended up in LA with a suitcase. That was my belongings. And they showed me a room with a partner, Mr. Forget his name right now, but anyway, he was an elderly man, and he was about ready to die. And he was my roommate. One evening, I went in and I found Mr. Ritchie was his name. I found him half out of bed and half in bed, and he had died there. But when I arrived in L.A., it was a strange experience that I had. I want to share with you that when I first got there, they showed me where I was going to stay. And the first night, I walked in that room, and here was a bed, and the sheets hadn't been changed probably for weeks or months. And it was a house that was right next to the mission, and it kept the workers that were doing the cooking and things. And I went to bed, and Satan went with me. And Satan said, "You fool. Look where you're at. Look what you could be back home working for General Motors, and here you are in this stinky house, unsaved men, and you made a bad choice. You made a bad choice, but God was there with me, and God showed me that no matter where I was, He is there. And the words came to my mind, be strong and be of good courage. And from that time on, I settled it with God that this is what His will was for my life. He leads us. He leads us. And I'm thankful that I can testify to that God is faithful. But again, He prepares a table before us, a table of blessings, a table of people that love you, that pray for you. But also, it was a place where I met my precious wife. And then it was, He leads us. He leads us. And I'm thankful this morning that it was there that God blessed me with a wonderful wife, and she came down to the mission from Pasadena, and with a gospel team that they would hold service for us on Sunday. And I saw this beautiful black-haired, curly-haired young lady, and over a period of time, we got married. It was then that He showed again that He is faithful in leading us, though we don't know where we're going and how we're getting there. He leads. He is faithful. And so 64 years later, this psalm has resounded in my heart and mind that when we come down to the end, He is there. Yea, though I walk through the valley, He's there. He's with us. He's guiding us. He's providing for us. And I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I'm so thankful this morning that I can share with you that this is a life that is beautiful, a life that God is faithful, and He provides everything we need. And so the psalmist ends by saying that we shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever and ever and ever. Amen.